Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Reyna. For the next 30 minutes, you'll be hearing about some of Beacon's work associated with the Early Head Start program. My name is Susan Reyna Guerrero, and I'm the President CEO of Beacon Therapeutic. Alice and I represent Beacon Therapeutic Diagnostic and Treatment Center. We're located on the south side of Chicago, and we provide a myriad of services. I'm going to put on the screen some information about Beacon. We actually have 4 different locations. We have our administrative offices on 103rd. We have our homeless outreach services on Western. We have a high school located in Cal Park, and our Longwood campus houses a multitude of our programs. I am going to put a listing of some of those programs. We operate a therapeutic day school, both K through 12. Our shelter outreach services, where we're providing mobile mental health services for homeless women and children. We operate a CHIPPR program that enrolls Illinois' children into the All Kids program. We offer Early Head Start that we'll be talking about today. We have a FACT program that works with young children and their mothers, 18 to 25, who are homeless. We have our newest program, which is a family homes program, which is housing the most vulnerable here in Chicago. We have a PATH program, an intensive outpatient program for little kids as well as adolescents, and then we have a traditional outpatient mental health program. What Beacon does essentially is that we're really looking to make an impact on children. Our mission is committed to working with children and families. And what we're doing, and what we'd like to think we're doing, is that we're creating new endings for disadvantaged beginnings. And we're particularly thrilled about this new tagline because it's through a grant that we got through the Taproot Foundation that we'll be talking about hopefully in the future of one of our series this year. So today I'm really happy to have Alice Merrifield. She's our Chief Clinical Operations Officer at Beacon Therapeutic. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you, Susan.
For the next 30 minutes, it's a live call-in show, so please call if you have any questions or comments. The number is on your screen, 312-738-1060. Otherwise, you're just going to hear us talk for the next 30 minutes. So Alice, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved with Beacon?
Well, I first started at Beacon in about 2000. And at that point, I was sort of transitioning back into the full-time workforce from working part-time and staying home with my kids. And so when I was looking for a full-time job, I happened across the ad, and I've always had a strong interest in working with children and adolescents. And so I was mainly looking for agencies that served children and adolescents, and also ones that also tend to serve kids that have experienced a lot of trauma and disadvantages in their lives.
Well, I know you started off in the schools,
right?
And so tell me a little bit about, because I think one of the unique features to what you've offered is really a good sense of everything that we do. So tell me a little bit about what you started off doing and what you're doing today.
Okay. Well, I started out as the clinical manager for our elementary school. And I was there for about 15 months or so before I moved over to the high school and became the clinical manager at the high school. At that point in time, I was at the high school for, about 5 years. I think it was about 5 years or more. I'm not really sure. And then I shifted into sort of supervising both of the schools and the principals, and then gradually sort of took over and started leading the outpatient clinic as well, and the intensive outpatient programs. And then a couple of years ago, became into this position, and
it's started to get ever since then.
Yeah, and started to get to know the homeless programs and everything else that we do.
So, and I know today we're going to be talking about our Early Head Start program. And just to put it in context, that really evolved from our work with the FACT project, where we were able to work with the city and identify that there was a population that wasn't getting these Early Head Start services. So tell me a little bit about what is our Early Head Start program.
Our Early Head Start program started as part of the stimulus era funding. It was one of 4 special projects, and ours was designed to serve homeless families in conjunction with our homeless outreach programs. Early Head Start is a home visiting program where home visitors go out and they do home visits every week with families with children who are 0 to 3 years old. And they work with the parents on things like their understanding of child development and their parenting skills, and how do you play with your baby, and how do you have fun with your baby, and also how do you really get to know your baby and understand their schedules and their routines and their rhythms, and just use then that understanding to help adjust what you're doing as a parent.
And what's unique about this is that we're targeting a specific population. You mentioned homeless,
Right.
or otherwise moms who are unstably housed, or maybe just exited a homeless situation, so their housing still isn't stable. But what makes this population more vulnerable?
The homeless population mainly, I mean, one, when you go into a family shelter, you have no real place to play with your baby. You have, you don't have the resources, you don't have the toys, you don't have the developmental activities. A lot of our families don't have, the parents haven't had education. They haven't graduated from high school. They haven't had college or any other further continuing education kinds of activities. So they don't really have a knowledge of child development and haven't been given the opportunities to sort of develop that. In addition, a lot of them are struggling with lack of resources, no income, just lack of stability in their lives. They're more vulnerable for being victims of violence. A lot of the children in our Early Head Start program live in communities that are very violent. And therefore, they're limited even as toddlers, about when they can go outside or limited to playing in their house a lot of the time.
So that clearly their opportunities are restricted on what they can do, and the goal of the Early Head Start program is to what? What is the goal of the Early Head Start program?
Is really to keep the babies and the children on a developmental track, so that, I mean, ultimately it's for school readiness. So that your goal is really to sort of help the parent, educate the parent, to be their child's educator in some ways, so that they can really help do what parents do to help their kids get ready for school. In kindergarten, a lot of our children will transition out into Head Start programs or into preschools. But it's also very challenging for some of our parents who, because of their own child experiences or experiences that they've had before, are not really trusting of center-based programs. And so the home visiting program allows them just to work with one person. They're there while somebody's working with them and their baby, and they don't have to sort of trust other people to be taking care of their baby when they're not there. And that's something then that we work with them on, is to help them develop the trust of different programs so that they can, by the time their child's age 3, they can transition into a more center-based program if they so choose.
And what are some of the things that the home visitors work on? You briefly touched on it before, but I know there's all these points that need to be hit when they go out and make the home visits.
So they will work on things like health and nutrition. They have nutrition lessons, and they have health. They help monitor immunizations and whether the parents are accessing and have the ability to access health care for their baby. And that they understand, that the parents understand what is required or what babies need in terms of health care and immunizations. They work on, like I said, how do you play with your baby, understanding your child's development, accessing community resources. I mean, there's just really sort of almost every area you can think of that you need for a baby is covered. And they have a curriculum that gives lesson plans for all of those areas.
So it's clearly it's a highly structured. There's a highly structured outcomes for each session, but at the same time they're meeting the needs of the baby and the mom. So, and I know this also goes for pregnant moms.
Correct.
So what are some of the things that they do with the pregnant moms?
It's really, there's a prenatal curriculum that they implement, and the prenatal curriculum covers things, again, and it's almost the same kind of content areas, except adjusted for pregnant women. So it's about health care and what kinds of health care do you need during your pregnancy. It's about different stages of pregnancy and sort of knowing what to expect in those things. It's about just sort of maintaining a healthy body for the mom, as well as getting ready and preparing them for after the birth and for having an infant, and sort of already teaching them a little bit about what happens. And, once the baby's born and you've got like a brand new newborn baby that you're bringing home and they're not sleeping, and,
all that fun
all
stuff.
those things.
We do have a caller. Yes, caller?
Yes, hi. I was just wondering if you have any type of needs for these moms and young babies, such as, in the way of donations.
Yes, actually, that's a great question. We, oddly enough, just had an event, and I'll talk about it towards the end of the show. But yeah, actually, one of the things that the home visitors do is they bring materials and supplies to the parents when they come out. So we're always looking for donations for diapers, baby clothes, strollers, anything a mom could possibly need for a baby. We are always looking for those donations. We do have these early fresh start kits that if folks are interested, they can go on our website and they can get more information. I can put that information on where they can see how you go about making donations. There's our website, www.beacon-therapeutic.org. But we are always looking for baby clothes, baby items, gently used baby items. These are the kind of things that, formula, bottles, diapers, all those things. I mean, that's one of the strategies I know that the home visitors use to engage the moms, right? Because there's tremendous need that they have. There is tremendous needs that they have. And then I know when they go out, they also bring all kinds of other things like their toys and all the other stuff.
Right.
It keeps them all going. So thank you. That is a good question. And how long can the children remain in the program?
They can stay until they turn 3 years old. So it is a 0 to 3 program. Once they turn 3, before really about the time that they start to turn 2.5, the home visitor will start working with the family to really help them identify how they're going to transition that child into the next program, whether it be Head Start or preschool or a home visiting Head Start program, depending on what the family wants. And so that process takes about 6 months to really effectively transition and make sure that you've done the research, that the family has gotten local resources for them, and that they're comfortable with the choice.
With the new provider.
And that the new provider has some kind of understanding of maybe any special needs or disabilities that the child might have.
And what are some of the, is there a waiting list? How many slots do we have at this point?
We have 31 slots. We do most of the time have a waiting list. We are usually, when we get a vacant slot, we are usually able to fill that slot within a week, because we do keep, and the waiting list is basically, referrals. A lot of our referrals come from our FACT program and also from our shelter outreach program, although we do also take outside referrals. And so a lot of our families that are referred are already getting other services from other programs within our agency. And this is another service that we're able to offer. But in the meantime, families are somewhat prioritized as to how they're admitted into the program based on certain risk factors and special needs, and if their child has a disability or if there's any sort of higher risk factors, then we would prioritize that family.
And how do we know that the children are responding? I know there's some evaluation tools that are used, and I think that in this day and age of outcomes, everybody asking how you're showing you're being effective. How do you think we're showing we're being effective?
So the home visitors, beginning of the program, administer the Ages and Stages questionnaire, both the regular version and the social emotional version, and then they are tracking that according to, at least every 4 months. The ASQs, or Ages and Stages, are administered. In addition, observations of the baby or the child and things, the teaching strategies gold is used, and that's an assessment that the home visitor completes based on observations of the child or the infant.
So they're looking at gross motor skills, fine motor skills, verbal skills, socialization skills, and clearly the intent is to show that the work that's being done is making a difference, and that's what's so valuable. One of the things that's so valuable about the program is that we are measuring the effectiveness, so we are seeing some outcomes which is positive. Now, one of us just said socialization. I don't know who it was. Tell me a little bit about what are the socializations. I'm going to put some pictures up of some of the kids, which I think are cute.
Early Head Start has twice monthly socializations. These are times when the moms and the babies can come in and they can all sort of hang out together. They're structured activities, and then there's also just time for play. And so there's usually some kinds of lessons. They might do a lesson on nutrition for the families. They might talk about different child rearing practices or techniques. They might talk about, just give the parents a time to sort of share some of their concerns that they might have about their child with other parents, and hear maybe strategies that they're doing. It's kind of like a play group in some ways, except with some more structured activities. And a lot of our parents don't really have access or a peer group that they can just get together with and talk about, like, what do you do, if your baby's up crying all night, and what do you do if all of a sudden they're doing some behavior that you really don't want them to do.
That they haven't been doing.
Well, and then we always provide them with a meal.
Yeah, and I know the meal part I think is always important because, and I'll never forget, one of our moms said this before many years ago. The one thing that she missed most about being in a shelter was that she wasn't able to prepare meals for her child or eat as a family. And I know, being part of some of the socializations I've seen, where they all sit around and they eat. Right. So what kind of things do they eat? What?
Oh, they make a whole variety of food.
I know they had ravioli there.
Yeah. And sometimes they've made burritos, and sometimes they've made. It really ranges quite a bit in terms of, all the food is prepared fresh, and so, and yes, it is always a family style meal.
Which I think for them is so important. And I know it's also time the home visitors are there. And I know, having been around them, I think I've been so impressed with the level of engagement that the home visitors have with the moms. So the caseloads are very small, right? There's no more than 10 children per one home visitor.
10 to 12 children
10
per.
to 12. Yeah. Yes. What are some of the other unique features to Beacon's Early Head Start program?
A lot of it is that we're serving homeless families, and also that we're serving homeless families where the parent also has mental health problems that they're struggling to deal with. And so that also adds a different dimension to the work, because you're also trying to make sure that the parent is being able to remain emotionally stable enough to really be an effective parent and to engage in the program fully. That is one of the things. I think one of the things is that we are citywide. And we do, since it's home visits, we can follow the families throughout the course. So if they happen to relocate to a different area of the city, or if they start out in the shelter when they're first in Early Head Start getting services, then they get housed. As long as they're housed within the city of Chicago, we can follow them and we can continue the services so that they really are able to stay with one agency, with one staff person, and have a lot of consistency in those services.
And I know there's also bilingual services, which is wonderful. So it's Spanish speaking, which is great. And I think and again, the capacity of the home visitors to engage and really avoid any barriers. So you mentioned we are citywide, and for the socializations, we'll pick them up. We pick them up and we bring them to the site, and then that's where they engage in the socialization, which is great. And also, the earlier caller was asking about donations. We are able to support the families so much with a lot of their basic needs for diapers and milk and clothing and those kinds of things that make it invaluable. And clearly, one of the goals that I see with the program is really to make sure that we're impacting the children now. So once they start regular Head Start or preschool, they're on a better track. We know the impact of homelessness on children. It delays their development, it delays their speech, it delays so many things. And, clearly the work that we're doing is making a difference so that these kids are on a different trajectory, ideally, in what they're doing. So tell me, what are some of the challenges with the program?
Some of the challenges is going into the communities to deliver services, and sometimes the communities are experiencing a lot of violence. Some of it is just actually engaging the families, being able to focus on the curriculum during home visits, because some of the homes are not as they're kind of chaotic, or they're kind of loud, or there's a lot of interruptions. So being able to help the parent create that structured, focused time is always kind of, but it is the growth you see within the parents in the program, and the pride that you get to see them show when they've learned and they've started to understand that they're being an effective parent with their child, is just so magical.
Yeah, it is. That's a great way of describing it. Yeah, I think this, and I think what's so impressive is that I think the parents know, they have such a strong desire to do the best by their kids. No matter how challenged their backgrounds have been, they really want to do the best. So their sense of pride in their kids' accomplishments is so wonderful. Now I know, I'm going to put some more pictures up. Tell me a little bit more. So, what are some of the partnerships that have been tapped into in helping the program?
So we have created linkages or relationships with different providers, dental providers and healthcare providers, as well as early intervention services and different agencies offering different services. The idea is in coordination with the other Beacon programs that a lot of these the Early Head Start families are working with. the idea is to really meet all the families' needs as much as we can, if not directly ourselves, then also through the referrals and linkages with other agencies. Early Head Start has some very specific requirements about hearing and vision screenings and making sure immunizations are up to date and the physicals are there and stuff, and even the dental care. They want, babies as young as 3 months to see a dentist, and so it's really about having those relationships. And some days we'll just plan a whole day. We might be able to get a dental care provider to say, okay, this is Beacon's sort of family hours, and we can bring a bunch of families into that provider and have them get the services that they need.
So it sounds like what we're also doing is really identifying just valuable partners in the community that they're able to tap into long after we're gone, almost, it sounds like, because we want them to continue the whole concept of the medical home and so on. I know we recently had a fundraiser because one of the challenges for the Early Head Start program is that we have to provide this match. And actually, before I talk about that, tell me about this governance structure associated with Early Head Start, because I know it's not only the goals for the children, but there's goals for the parents to become advocates for their children. Right. So how does that come to play with the program?
So every Head Start or Early Head Start program has to have a parent committee, a policy committee. The policy committee is made up of a majority of parents, and then community members. Staff are not allowed to be part of the policy committee. And then there's also very specific requirements for the board of directors. So for each committee, the parents get to choose who's on all the parents are on the parent committee. The parents get to sort of nominate, elect, or take volunteers for the policy committee. And those committees have a direct say in the program, in the hiring practices of the program, in the design of the program, in assessing the program to see how it is meeting its goals or not meeting its goals, to look at the progress of the children, to look at the financial structure of the program. And the policy committee works along with the board of directors to approve those practices. Every year there's a self-assessment that's completed where you look at the federal standards and you go through and describe whether you're meeting them or not meeting them. If you're not meeting certain standards, you need to create an action plan. And the policy committee gets to take a direct role in sort of reviewing the action plan, making sure that the agency and what the steps that are going to be taken are ones that they feel are appropriate.
And I think, this goes along with the whole federal legislation associated with Early Head Start and how the beginnings of it really were to empower parents to become lifelong advocates for their children. So clearly, we talked about Early Head Start having tremendous impact on the children, but also on the parents as they go forward, because this is just the beginning of the child's academic career. And, so these kids are going to need advocates on an ongoing basis.
And they learn things like Robert's Rules of Order and how to conduct meetings and how to schedule an agenda for a meeting, and skills that they can take back into a workforce at some time.
Which is great. Now, I know the other piece to that is that there is this match requirement, and I know it's been a challenge for us because there needs to be funds raised specifically to support this. So with that said, I'm going to put a picture of our junior board on. Oh, there you go. Our junior board. And this past Saturday, we had an event at Cork and Kerry on the south side, and essentially it raised funds for Beacon and for the Early Head Start program. So this is our junior board. It was one of our first events, and they did a great job. Let's see. Oh, here's another one of everybody. And so just a quick snippet about what they did was what they brought in diapers, tons and tons of diapers, and then they also raised funds. And I think when it's all said and done, it'll be about $2,500 that they've raised. Well, we're almost out of time, and I'm wondering, Alice, do you have any other comments or final thoughts on Beacon or on the Early Head Start program?
Well, I just think the Early Head Start program offers so many opportunities for the families that get involved. And it becomes a program that the families just really like to engage in and are readily engaging in. So Beacon has expanded its programs in a number of ways throughout the years and continues to serve families all over the city with high needs, and look to see how we can meet additional needs by adding new programs on. And I just think that's
pretty neat.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. We just submitted a proposal to expand this, so we'll see what happens. Final note, I would like to just put some information on about our upcoming holiday supper. It's November 30th from 6:30 to 10:30. Tickets are $60, I believe. This year we're very excited. We're honoring the mayor of Chicago for his instrumental work on implementing the new plan to end homelessness. If you're interested in tickets, the number is 773-298 6441. Alice, thank you for joining me
Thank
today.
you, Susan.
And we'll be here again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.